Resident Evil is a series with a barrage of different styles and aesthetics. You got old school fixed camera angles, claustrophobic horror-fueled action with a little bit of horror sprinkled in, first-person action or horror-based gameplay, even rail shooters. And as a Resident Evil fan, it is a terrifying ordeal to argue for which you feel is the best. You'll think you have the right loadout to get the job done, until you realize, oh crap, I forgot some really important points to make in my storage box. I hope I have enough ammo and herbs to make my way back to it before my argument is as good as dead. But above all, there are two entries that most people always go back to stake their claim. 2 and 4. Considered by many to be the greatest representations of each of their styles, and the two greatest games in the series as a whole. Now, picking them as the two best and pitting them against each other is a surefire way to spawn a barrage of flesh-hungry grave walkers that will play favorites till the grave. I know I've already ruffled some feathers by not talking about the classics like Resident Evil 3 Remake, Operation Raccoon City, or Reverse. When talking about the GOAT, how can you not include these, bro? There's also the parasitic white flag waving idiots that have come to teach me a lesson that pitting video games against each other is stupid. To that I'd like to say you are 100% right, this sucks. But shut up and let this idiot cook a little. The styles of Resi 2 with its pure survival horror-based gameplay and Resi 4's fun action-packed gameplay are so hard to pick a favorite from that even Capcom themselves can't do it and are giving us both in the next installment. So comparing these two games against each other is for sure a monstrous undertaking, but today we will discuss it. In a world full of meaningless arguments and comparisons that do nothing but put a wall of divisiveness between us, I'm here to add another brick to the wall. Two games at the mercy of opinions, a battle Leon's in the making. Can we sink our teeth deep enough and remove the parasite infection that is our bias and reveal to us the authority on which is better? Could it be me? Sure as hell ain't, but for now let's pretend. Remember, there are no winners here, except for the game I pick at the end. Resident Evil 2 versus Resident Evil 4, the remakes. Horror-based action versus action with a little horror sprinkles. Zombies versus parasites. Mr. X versus Salazar. The bite-marked apple versus the juice-filled orange. Which stands tall as the remade GOAT? Okay, let's get down to the human meat and potatoes here. I will be judging these games as standalone games. While there will be some comparisons specifically with OG RE4, I'm not looking at which of these games do a better job at remaking the source material, but rather just making sweet love to my video game interests. I'm not necessarily an RE stan, I am a big fan of the series, but I'm not looking for fan service, characters being perfect carbon copies of the original, Easter eggs, etc. I just want to explore what these games are trying to be and which does so more successfully. Which is more fun, which is more engaging, which has more to offer, and does that make X greater than Y? From the originals to the remakes, yes, this is making a trip to the fruit basket and comparing apples to oranges. But specifically in the remakes, there's a more seamless transition from game to game, something I greatly appreciate. Resident Evil 4 is no longer a Devil May Cry turned Resident Evil game that, for the most part, doesn't care that Resident Evil 2 happened. Which is a great segue into talking about the stories. Bam! Story. There you go. It's always been one of the go-to arguments for the RE2 stan. RE4 is more fun and action-y, but Resident Evil 2 conceptually beats it every time with its story and atmosphere, seen as the pivotal event for the overarching plot in the series. The origin of the fan-favorite protagonist Leon Kennedy, iconic characters like Mr. X, William Birkin, Ada Wong, Claire Redfield, the classic zombie game that takes place in arguably the most notable location in all of Resident Evil, the Raccoon City Police Station. While Resident Evil 1 is the first game, many hail 2 as the true birth of the series and everything it represents. And while that may be true, This time around it gets more complicated to discuss, because 4 shocked me this time around by providing us with some actually solid character development. From the start of the game, we are reminded of what the events of Resi 2 mean to Leon, and that continues throughout the bulk of the game through him. Leon was this goody two-shoes rookie Boy Scout who wanted to be a world saver when given the opportunity in Raccoon City. But ultimately he failed. This time, it can be different. A phrase echoing in Leon's head throughout the game, directly or indirectly. There are fans who may be disgruntled by the fact that Leon isn't eating a pizza slice saying, "Cowabunga dudes, it's butt-kicking time!" and flirting with every piece of ass he sees. That he's more mopey, emo, and subdued, ew. But it fits with his character because he feels lost and incapable of being what he wants. He's been forced into working for the government, forced into grueling training that almost kills him, which nicely explains why he can roundhouse kick people to death. All likely because of his knowledge of what truly caused the nightmare in Raccoon City. So not only does he have to live with his failure, his whole life has been turned upside down because he got caught up in everything. They also don't just make him a boring, deadpan piece of crap that's saved for somebody else. The game does a fantastic job multitasking in that they're giving Leon some proper continuity and character growth, while at the same time retaining some of that campy Resident Evil 4 charm. It's not just a simple case of, oh, they just wanted to make a more grounded, darker Resident Evil 4, so we gotta make Leon less charismatic. But rather your main character actually has purpose and feelings, beyond being a badass, and I think it's beautifully built upon by the way Ashley is used in this game. Having to protect Ashley is admittedly one of the most annoying parts of both the original and the remake, but here it actually carries some weight because it's a constant reminder of Leon's goal, that every time he can save her, he's one step closer to his redemption, to completing his mission. And it creates this really awesome dynamic between the two, where Ashley is a bit taken by Leon romantically, and Leon is indirectly conveying the same romantic interest because he's doing everything he can to complete his mission. He may have some underlying romantic interest, there's subtle flirting throughout the game, the chemistry between the two is great, and maybe he's thinking there's a little more to come from what this mission meant to him initially, and that's cool. But he's got to keep his eyes on the prize, and that's not being with Ashley, it's saving her. Such great performances from both Leon and Ashley. It really is refreshing to see not just the organic building of their relationship and chemistry throughout the game, but specifically Ashley's character development, seeing her confidence grow, to see her feel more capable and accustomed to the sticky situations she finds herself in. To the point that just like Leon, she's starting to see a different silver lining to come from her rescue, seeing Leon as not just a possible romantic partner, but a partner in crime. It's the best part of the game narratively without question, and it's a breath of fresh air coming from RE2 where the interactions between Leon and Ada, or Leon and Claire, seem a little ridiculous having romantic undertones when they just met. But in Ada's case, it makes sense because she's manipulating him into being her little toy. And this version of Leon in RE2 is a wee boy, so I guess it's forgivable that he likes every girl he meets and wants to be Mr. Knight in Shining Armor. He carries that classic rookie charm, becoming a police officer to protect people, the type to rescue your cat from a tree, willing to take a bullet for Ada when they just met, running into the fire that is this nightmare on his first day to save the world. I do find it a little jarring, though, that Claire is the true confident badass of two with zero police training. She's got the better one-liners, or rather her one-liners just sound more badass. And in terms of just overall performance and story feel, Claire takes the cake. In her scenarios, the cutscenes just feel more organic, and also provide the deeper story context regarding the Birkin family, to make encounters with the former Mr. B turned Mr. G much more impactful. And this is where we get into murky waters, because while Resident Evil 4 Remake can do a better job at contextualizing and grounding its main characters, fleshing out relationships, and it can be seen as a clear winner for better story for how well it's done, especially for a Resident Evil game, to that we can introduce Mr. X, except the overarching context and lore surrounding Resident Evil 2 is still way more interesting and immersive. OG4's staying power in terms of its story rests heavily on the shoulders of its charismatic cast of characters. Other than that, you can just look at RE4's story in a vacuum and say, well, it happened. The story is goofy conceptually, and the OG leans into that goof. A devout religious cult called Los Iluminados discovers bugs and deems them bug god. experiments on them, and aims to use them for mind control and genetic mutation with aspirations of world domination. Surely the will of our Lord and Savior Beetle Christ. I understand parasites aren't actually bugs, just stick with the joke. And then there's somebody in the background from an organization, aptly named The Organization, trying to get the virus for themselves. A story concept that is ironically not foreign to Resident Evil. It just feels like a less interesting reskin of the same story concepts. While in 4 Remake they do a way better job than the OG at making the Plagas infection in Ashley and Leon mean something, you still can't match the underlying dread, mystery, and fear surrounding the viruses in 2. It doesn't help RE4 in that the game makes it a point to tell you exactly what's going on at every turn. And also, for the most part, the people infected with the virus were just dumbasses choosing to submit themselves to a religious cult. Sure, they didn't just walk up to Sadler and say, "Inject me with your parasite, papi." They still chose to follow. In RE2, you have tons of innocent civilians being infected by a virus due to the actions of one man, William Birkin, a virologist developing bioweapons. Or is it viruses used to create bioweapons? I don't know, my lore knowledge is a little rocky. For Umbrella, who's this massive company who sells stuff, controls stuff. They just do a lot of stuff, and they're seen as cool in the public eye, but secretly they're a-holes. Birkin does all this research and experimentation with the viruses in an attempt to evolve the human race or something. Umbrella says, "Nah, we're gonna make weapons with them and you'll get no credit. Get ready to die." Birkin says, "No, I want a bigger penis, and that's what I'm gonna get." And thus, the plot of Resident Evil 2 happens. The virus spreads to the wrong side of his anatomy and to many anatomies around the city, and he's visibly devastated, like, "Where's my big monster?" In all seriousness, this plot thread is way more interesting to watch unfold, because you're scared at the possibility of Birkin getting his penis. Okay, I'll stop. But there's way more mystery involved. You see the zombies and think, what the hell is going on? You have Marvin telling Leon on his first day that it's okay to gun down fellow police officers if they seem infected. You see Birkin and Mr. X and think, who and what in the hell are you? And every time you cross paths with them and manage to thwart their attempts at killing you, seemingly vanquishing them, they keep coming back, and coming back stronger. There's not only the sense of what is happening, there's the sense of can it even be stopped? In terms of the interactions with some of the main villains in 4, namely Salazar and Sadler, they're just kind of there until they're not. They're far from duds, and the remake delves deeper into their origins with collectible notes and whatnot, which is sweet. But specifically, Salazar suffers due to his lack of charisma coming from the OG, and he also looks like an OG, meaning old grandma. He's the one instance where I really started to question whether Resident Evil 4 just needs that over-the-top campy style. I miss FaceTiming with Salazar. I miss all the cheesy one-liners and this weird regal midget taunting me. In terms of Sadler, though, I think he actually makes the transition a little easier. He fits into the new tone. Quite frankly, I kinda like this version of Sadler more. Maybe it would take another OG playthrough to refresh my memory, but whenever he's on screen it makes me wish the game was even darker, so the complete opposite of Salazar. They're both still well voiced though, and specifically in their boss fights they say a lot of cool or funny shit that got me more invested in the fight, but they lack that sense of oomph that the fights with Birkin or Mr. X have in Resident Evil 2, story-wise. So to get down to brass tacks here, Resident Evil 2 has more interesting concepts and a more immersive atmosphere surrounding its main characters, and Resident Evil 4 has some stronger character development and voice acting, surrounded by less interesting, albeit still interesting, concepts. So I guess it's really just a matter of personal preference, guys. I will say 4's strong character work and the fact that it's only one scenario helps it feel more like a complete story, which usually to me is always going to be more satisfying than a conglomeration of more memorable moments and concepts with not as much character depth. Resident Evil 2's premise is exactly how it feels. You show up and oops, you're in a cataclysmic event. You see some stuff, you do some stuff, you learn some stuff, and then you get the hell out of there. And with the awkward way it sets up its 2 different scenarios, it can be hard to piece together what the hell is the actual canon timeline. Who really fought who opened which doors, how is Annette in 30 places at once? Having said that, I still think 2's atmosphere-driven story is the definitive Resident Evil experience. If someone were to ask me which game to play for the story, I would always say 2. Even with Resident Evil 4's strong character work, giving us what might be the best version of Leon that we've seen yet, a way better Ashley and way better relationship between the two, Lewis being more fleshed out. The Krauser stuff is fantastic. Ada is here. Okay, I have to mention it real quick because there's no way to talk about this game without addressing the gigantic, sexy red elephant in the room. Ada's voice in 4 Remake is an abomination. If you come to her defense, all the power to you. I'm not one of these psychotic neckbeard freaks sending the actress threatening messages. But because the voice acting is so good in 4 Remake, it makes Ada sound like some otherworld alien. And it's not bad in the corny Resident Evil way, it's just straight up bad voice acting. She doesn't drag the entire game down with her though, it's just awkward. But anyways, Resident Evil 2, the stakes, how all the fates of every character are interwoven, insert everything I just said already here, will always make it better. And it will likely remain at the top of the mountain in terms of what the series is at its best in terms of storytelling and world building, forever. So now on to gameplay. It's really easy to look at these and just see perfection on both ends, and I don't lean on either side of the coin here. I'm neither solely an action-heavy gamer or solely a survival horror puzzle gamer, so naturally when looking at 2 fire representations of each genre, I'm just left to smash the apples and oranges over my head and never do another Versus video again. But let's try it. In Resident Evil 2, every single thing you do matters. Thanks to the way the game is structured, level-wise, enemy placement-wise, inventory management-wise, potato chips, every enemy feels like a threat. It accomplishes the tall task of turning these slow, stupid, and annoying goofs into great horror enemies. Because of your limited resources and space, it constantly presents you with a decision on whether or not it's even worth killing them. Should I save my ammo? Should I use my ammo to get rid of a zombie and free up an inventory space for a key item or a new weapon attachment, blah blah blah. And if you decide it's not worth it, now you gotta get past them. It creates this game where your positioning and movement patterns matter so much. How do I lure this zombie over to this side of the room so I can get out safely? If I don't have space to work with, can I stun them with just a few bullets or break their ankles with a crossover? And thanks to all the backtracking in this game for story progression and exploration, if you choose to leave a zombie or 2 alive, you have to remember, they're still there. Where are they gonna be when I re-enter the room? Could they be waiting on the other side of the door? Could there be a licker on the ceiling stalking me? Are more zombies gonna start banging on the door and see themselves in? Man, that shit is great. And because these zombies are bullet sponges, it can be difficult to determine whether or not a zombie is truly down for the count, unless you blow its head off. You could be walking past enemies you think you disposed of, and then poof, they get up for a quick scare. There's also the iconic, big, bald, noisy neighbor stalking you throughout the game. Just when you thought you could relax and play with your little portable safe, you hear his loud-ass footsteps and know that you are no longer portably safe. He chases you into those rooms with the zombies you left alive. Chaos and panic ensues, after getting thrown into a corner and stagger spammed to near death as you eat every last herb and health spray you have in your pouch. It's time to hide in your safe room and never come out. Your playthrough is ruined. Just sit with your failure. Or you can sit there and be humbled like, wow, this game is really good. A master in tension, sound design, level structure, and enemy placement. Oh boy, what a good horror game. Now here's the thing, you can't fault Resident Evil 4 for not having most of these systems in place, because it's a completely different style of game. Maybe 4 isn't as good at making you pee your pants with its lighter horror elements, but maybe you also like to pee your pants in excitement at how incredible the action is. And 4 still has you thinking about a boatload of things, like the boatload of enemies closing in on you, or why your leg doesn't look like a tenderized meat stick after stepping on every bear trap in the game. While Resi 2 is like carefully walking through a minefield, Resi 4 is more about trying to sprint through a sea of thorn bushes, 2 great real-life examples of fun. But the combat system. 4 Remake's combat system is, surprise, a way more polished version of the OG. There's nothing like headshot stunning an enemy and then closing in on them to deliver a roundhouse kick. The sound design on the guns is super satisfying. The guns just feel better in 4 vs 2. The added parry system is a nice addition, makes you feel way more secure in tackling every enemy. Sure, every enemy isn't a major threat like in RE2, but when a big brute hits the field with a chainsaw or giant hammer, it demands your attention. Having attacks that require a quick button press to evade with a backflip or duck and dodge, it's nice. While there's obviously less to think about on the ammo conservation side, you can think a bunch about how you're going to structure your loadout. Tons of different weapons to choose from with different perks, guns, which to choose from, which to upgrade. And this is where we can talk about replayability and flexibility in how you approach each game. The thing with Resident Evil 2 is whether you're playing as Leon or Claire in either scenario, the experience is almost entirely the same every time. Enemy placement changes from A to B scenario and items get shuffled around to different places. Ada and Sherry's segments are fun and a welcome little change of pace. But once you've made your way through both scenarios, the only option is to get good at speedrunning the game. So for someone who doesn't want to take the time studying the entire map, they might have already hit the ceiling for how much they're going to get out of the game. Now, skill issue isn't a good excuse to write a game off as a waste of time or an inferior experience, and getting good at speedrunning too is a ton of fun. But the better you get, the easier and more predictable the game becomes, stripping away some of the core factors that make the gameplay so good. On hardcore difficulties, yes, it is still terrifying and you will get your ass thoroughly kicked. But it doesn't make the ceiling for RE2 that much higher, unless you love the game so much you can speedrun it every day for the rest of your life. And while getting that S or S plus rank is a triumphant victory that you should totally tell all your friends and family about that don't give a shit, the bonus weapons you get as a result once again just kind of take away from the experience, rather than add a new ripple to explore, because you just strip away the danger. Now, we all love when the reward for conquering a game is allowing us to turn it into a complete joke, blasting enemies to hell with a rocket launcher, or unloading clip after clip of an infinite round SMG. But can we all agree it's fun for 2 seconds and that's it? And this is where Resident Evil 4 gets its stars. That was f***ing terrible. In that your gameplay style is entirely in your hands. If you want to feel less capable, make this more survival horror oriented, do it. Make that loadout smaller, use slower guns, don't pick up ammo drops, and fail miserably. If you want to feel like the ultimate badass, pour all that coin into one weapon and watch it melt through the game. Like I said, there's a bunch of different weapons to choose from. And yes, at the end of the day, a pistol is still a pistol, a shotgun is still a shotgun, but sometimes the speed, power, capacity, and perks that come with these guns can drastically change your effectiveness in combat. You could even incorporate stealth in this game, with the bolt thrower to lower the enemy count before certain encounters. Go knife heavy, buff up the durability and power, and turn this into a parry-palooza. Now, I haven't experimented with any of this shit, because I just beat the game once, but man, do all the possibilities tickle my balls. Resi 4 just has so many ways to extend the playtime and fun. All the loadout possibilities, all the side missions, hardcore, professional, collecting every treasure. And if you find yourself getting bored, you can walk up to this mysterious and charming gentleman and learn how to suck. Less at the game by polishing your skills at the shooting range. The shooting range, man. I was trying to get through this playthrough as fast as possible, but oh boy, did that shooting range suck me in. Ugh, I just want to cease all future RE content in Platinum 4 right now. It's important to note that I'm not including any extra content outside of the main game for either of these. So if you think the Survivor missions and my boy Tofu here are formidable foes against RE4's replayability, I'm sorry. If Mercenaries is your favorite thing in the world, I'm sorry. And I'll leave the torture of hearing Ada's new voice again in the DLC for another day. So let's talk boss fights. RE4 has the fun action factor going for it, but this is where RE2 can use its story and atmosphere power to get a few licks in. And also not being as capable combat-wise can make fights more scary and whatnot. The music has to be a factor though too. I mean, come on, Mr. X blasting through that wall with the firearm and the music, it's just so peak. The fourth Birkin fight is honestly one I keep going back to when I think what is my favorite fight in the series. Once again, fantastic music, showering him with bullets from a minigun as he's trying to crawl towards you. The frickin' setting and the lighting, him periodically climbing the wall and then just diving down to attack, it's just so awesome. The second fight, being stuck in such a confined space and trying to position him correctly to hit him with the giant crate. In the first fight, he falls, and it's funny. But 4, man, it just has really fun and more fleshed out gameplay that's hard to beat. which makes every fight, story forward or not, feel super satisfying. I love the big grilled cheese fight, despite not understanding how the hell to dodge those fire sticks flying towards me. With the setting and the fire, looks like your tap dancing days are over. The two giants fight, the fish, the minecart and speedboat sections. They're not boss fights, but man are they spectacular. The show stealer, though, is Krauser. Need I say more? It utilizes every gameplay tool in the toolbox: parrying, positioning, evading, dealing with the booby traps in the opening. Story-wise, it's the strongest. It's neck and neck between him and Birkin 4 for my favorite fight in the series as of this writing. Though I am fond of the Heisenberg fight in 8, so when I get around to 7 versus 8, I'll reevaluate. Salazar and Sadler are fantastic fights as well, with fantastic OSTs as well. Jesus. Here's the thing, folks. I am in a pickle. I am in a monstrous, slimy, eyeball-covered pickle. Sounds disgusting, and that's because the situation I'm in right now is frickin' disgusting. When I think about it, does Resident Evil 4's peaks beat Resident Evil 2's peaks?
God, that is such a hard question.
Alright, screw it. Go big or go home, right? Okay, so we said RE2, story, atmosphere, it's untouchable, it's peak. When someone says Resident Evil, you're gonna say, oh, the zombie game. You're not gonna say, oh, the parasite infection game. Come on, bro, get that shit out of here. But dude, the character development, 4 is the best version of Leon that we've gotten yet. Ashley's a smoke show, their chemistry is fire. Yeah, but having to watch over her damsel in distress ass ruins most sections of the game. No, but it's forgivable because story context.
Nope, still
her section is actually good in the remake. Yeah, but Ada and Sherry's sections are good too. Okay, fair point, but how many times are you gonna have to play through those same sections that play out the exact same way on every difficulty?
They're still fun though!
How many times can you go through your exploration and puzzle-based game when you already know where everything is and how to solve it? No, stop. RE2 combat, exploration, and the Metroidvania-style backtracking is amazing. I still stand by that. But how long until you get tired of using the same weapons every single freaking
I love
playthrough?
those weapons!
You got knife parrying, dodging, a freaking roundhouse kick, bro? Are you serious? Epic boss fights? Yeah, but do those bosses carry that same story weight? I don't think so. Do they have that goated Resi 2 OST behind?
But 4 Remake soundtrack is fire too!
No. But where that OG Merchant Serenity track at though, huh? Where that OG Merchant Serenity track at though? Okay, fair point. But the Merchant is still dope though. What about the shooting range, man? What about all the side missions?
Okay,
the police station is better than the village, point blank.
Yeah, but the opening of the village is so iconic. Where'd everybody go?
Bro,
Bingo?
sit down, it ain't beating RPG. Alright, but the castle is better than the sewers, point blank.
But what about the red room with all the G-adults
blind
though?
Wolverines? Are you really gonna argue for that dumbass crocodile? Lab. The island was story
gorgeous in the
puzzle
remake.
wise, the 3rd and 4th Birkin
Against
fights.
the
Krauser fight, bro?
Against the Mr. X fight! Against escaping the lab! Is that self-destructing? You really want to
Against the speed
fight!
Enough. Okay. So when I really think about it, when I ask myself the question, does Resident Evil 4's peaks beat Resident Evil 2's peaks? For me personally, no, it doesn't. 4 definitely has its moments where it almost got me. These games are literally neck and neck. But there's a lot of cases where RE2's story and atmosphere just shatter a lot of stuff I can argue for in Resident Evil 4. 4's story is so wacky conceptually that I feel it needs that extra campiness for it to wow me as much as the original did. To have that charm and staying power. Quite honestly, if we got the same level of camp, it could be a different result here. I really applaud the effort trying to ground the story more and giving us some good character development, but I think it either needs to be more campy or full-blown serious, if even possible, to have it surpass too. In terms of gameplay, this whole thing really becomes a case of quality versus quantity, where the quantity in Resident Evil 4's case is still really solid, so it makes things awkward. I understand why someone would hail it as the GOAT, because it really does feel like the complete package. It borrows some elements from 2 and makes everyone happy. There's puzzle solving, you got the horror factor, you got the awesome minecart and speedboat sections, the action is incredible. It's the best looking Resident Evil game in my opinion. Great character models. There's more to do, there's more flexibility and replayability. But at the end of the day, I value what I'm doing constantly throughout the course of the playthrough, and not what I can do if I choose to explore different routes of gameplay. And in that case, I find 2 to be a masterpiece in survival horror and interconnected level design, a perfect zombie game, and 4, a fantastic horror action hybrid that comes just short of the mark. The 2 main things that could change my opinion are playing this game on harder difficulties and multiple playthroughs exploring my options. I just need more time with the game. But I can't do that. I'm trying to cover more RE this month, so I'll re-explore that at a later date. As it stands, Resident Evil 2 Remake wins. I'd like to thank my kitchen for housing my madness in what was one of, if not the hardest versus videos I've ever written. Thank you for letting this idiot cook. If you like this video, be sure to check out the rest of the Versus videos on my channel, as well as be on the lookout for future Resident Evil content as we make our way to Resident Evil 9. We have found our goat, now tell me if I'm wrong or right, be a brick in the illustrious wall of sodomite. And as always, leave a like, comment, and perhaps subscribe, and I just might make some more.